Hi everyone. In this video, we'll look at another compute service, Lambda. So if you go to console, you'll see Lambda here. If you had recently used it, and then what we'll do is we'll create a function. So Lambda is a managed AWS service which allows you to create function that can run up to 15 minutes and uh, produce results for you. So without needing for any servers or anything like that. So let's start from scratch, just a hello world example. So you say my function 01, and let's take Python 3.13. And then, so we can leave this as is and we'll create a new role with the Lambda execution permission. So we can leave that as is default. And then we'll say create function. Takes a second to create the function. And so the function has been successfully created. It says you can now change its code configuration and you can invoke the function with a test event. So there are different triggers that you can have. Okay. So you can have different triggers that can trigger this Lambda function, but the code resides in Lambda handler function. And when after you make changes, you deploy through this deploy button, and then you test through this test, and or you can always go through test and then monitor. And this part where you configure your Lambda function. So let's just first print event, okay, and then deploy. So it's deployed. Now let's go to test and figure out a test event. So we create a new test event. So we just say my test event. And so this will be our test event. It's a key value pair. Um, and so these are different templates available. So like you can have SQS template, and then it will populate how SQS message would typically look like for you to test. But in this case, we'll start with hello world and then we'll go to SQS. So go to hello world. And now let's save this first. So it will save under this test event. So save the test event saved. And then let's execute. So we click on test. And so successfully executed. And if you look at the details, it said this is the return. Um, and we need to look at the logs too. So it printed this event, the key value pair. And if you want to specifically get the value one, then what we can do is we need to change. All right, if you want to extract key one, then what we do is we go to event, and then, sorry, let's, okay, so just say, okay, deploy done, let's test it. So test complete. If we look at the bottom, then it will say key one is value. And so this is how you extract. So this was very simple key value pair, but let's try with something more complex, like let's say SQS event. So let's create a new test event. So we go here, the name is my SQS event, and template is, let's pick SQS. So this is our SQS. So we can just say in the body. So it has records, and then there'll be array of messages, and one of the messages with this message ID and this body, and some of the attributes of the messages are here. So this is how SNS would send messages, and this is how your Lambda should be able to process. It's a test event. So let's save this. Now, if you run as is, because we are looking for key one, it will fail. So let's just click test and see. So it fails because it's looking for key one and we don't have key one in our test message. So let's update our code to look for, we'll look for records, then we look for message ID, and then we look for body. So let's go to code, and so we'll delete this and we'll see. event, and then it was a array of records, and we'll pick the first message, and then within the first message we'll get message id, and so that should print the message id. And let's print the body also. Let's copy this, and instead of message id we'll pick body from the message, and then we'll just say message body. So let's just double check the case sensitivity, message id and body. So let's go here. So message id and body, they look correct. So we have to go and deploy our code. So let's go deploy changes. Successfully deployed. Now let's go ahead and test. So we'll be testing with this SQS event. So go and test, and okay, it ran successfully. So that was good. And there's the output. So it said message ID is this, and message body is hello world from SQS. So this is what we had set here, message ID and message body. So this in nutshell, quick overview of how you can use Lambda to run different functions to handle different events. Um, and if you go to configuration, there are different triggers um, that can trigger this lambda. So right now we haven't defined, that's why we were running manually through test, but there are triggers available and we can look at some of those. So we click on add trigger, and then these are the sources of it. So you can trigger the lambda from Alexa, through API gateway, CloudFront, um, CloudWatch logs, even something from S3 you can trigger, SQS, SNS, and then you can from Apache Kafka, Kinesis. So there's a lot of options, and then there is also partner event, and there are more options here that you can connect to or trigger your Lambda from these external systems as well. Thanks for watching.